Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sandy Sheshak. I'm a medium, intuitive, and channel. And today I just wanted to share an experience I had recently about a QHHT session I had. And for those of you who don't know what QHHT stands for, it's Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. It was developed by Dolores Cannon, and I had come across her work from reading some of her books, which were pretty interesting. I highly recommend. I was curious to have a QHHT session, which is similar to a past life regression session, but from my understanding, QHHT blends a bit more of the between lives and multiple lifetimes with the idea of gaining what's most important for you to know in this lifetime. So in the QHHT session, the under hypnosis and under this hypnotic state, the practitioner is guiding you to different portions of your soul's journey. And so the practitioner explained that in every case, it's your higher self that's talking, that's responding. You are sort of connected to your higher self in this hypnotic state because it sort of sets aside the more human, physical reality filters and gets you more in touch with your subconscious, which is where all the information is stored from past lives and whatnot. So my intention going into this was I wanted to understand what this hypnotic state was and if it was deeper than what I experience when I'm channeling or when I'm doing intuitive or mediumship readings for other people. And so with this, I actually did find that it was similar to the channeling state that I'm in, maybe slightly deeper. It's also very similar to the reading state. In terms of what is the process like, the practitioner will get you in a very relaxed hypnotic state by just kind of counting you down, walking you through some visuals. And then she will guide your consciousness to different lifetimes or different portions of your soul's journey through prompts. So for example, I think the first thing that she had me do was go to the place that feels like home, or another prompt might have been like, go to the lifetime where you first experienced whatever it was. And so that's kind of how the process is. In my particular case, the session was like 3 hours with like an hour up front where we're discussing goals, what I want to get out of it, and also the background of my life, because the practitioner needs to understand where to take the session, where to go, how to relate to different things that might come up. So unlike a psychic reading or intuitive reading or mediumship reading where you try to keep the reader blind, if you're the client, in this particular case, you want to share as much as you can with the practitioner of a QHHT session so that they know more about you and would know how to guide the session, what questions to ask next, what lifetimes to steer you into next, that kind of thing. And just a note on the experience, I was actually quite surprised at how much I remembered afterwards, just how vivid the visuals that came up in the session were. And they've still stuck with me. And without even listening to the recording of this session, I was able to really understand all the pieces together and what it all meant, which I thought was very interesting. I was kind of wondering going into it if I'd be like, you know, under the hypnotic state and then just like wake up on the other end and be like, what happened? But that's not what happens. The practitioner said that maybe only happens for like a very small portion of the population that do these regressions. For the most part, people are at least somewhat conscious. So they're kind of witnessing and observing and remembering what's happening. And so I just thought I'd mention that. But let's get into some of the key scenes, lifetimes, and insights that I had during this session. So the first scene that I was taken to with the prompt of what feels like home was when I first was taken to my home between lives, where I got to meet these group of guides. They were like wispy blue figures, kind of angelic, not really physical. And I saw myself as them as well, or looking like them in appearance. And when I felt myself in the presence of them and heard them say, "Welcome home," it was such an intense feeling of pure love and also familiarity, that there was some emotion coming through. And I definitely remember that. The guides in this experience showed me what our greater mission is. And so we were looking down at Earth from this kind of space in the clouds, and we're looking down at humanity, and all of these humans have boxes around their heads. And this was symbolizing that they had been limited in their perception. And so our mission together is to help awaken humanity from this limitation and this feeling of separation. And so that was an interesting visual, because if you've walked a spiritual path, you understand that we all walk around with perceived limitations, and many spiritual leaders have come down to try to break people free from those limitations, which are in some cases imposed from another source, such as what we call the matrix, but it's also self-imposed by what beliefs we have. And so that was really interesting. The second scene that stuck out was an Egyptian lifetime. I believe the practitioner had prompted me to go to a lifetime where this mission started to come into play. And so I was taken to this lifetime where I saw myself as a commoner in ancient Egypt. I was working in the palace and had jobs around the palace, including working for the highest pharaohs or leaders at the time. And there was one powerful image where I was washing the feet of one of the leaders or pharaohs, and he was quite large. And I'm also sensing that the energy that's coming off of him is so intense that he does not feel human. There was a intense feeling around this leader. And as I was noticing that he was not human, I did notice that this particular leader was shape-shifting in between looking totally human to shape-shifting into what looked more like reptilian type features on the face. So this was pretty interesting, but alarming for the person I was in this lifetime. I would see how these types of leaders were ruling. They were ruling by fear. They really just saw humans as tools. They didn't really have empathy for them or really much emotions at all. And if there was any sort of uprising against these leaders, then they would just kill them, particularly by slitting their throats. So they use that sense of fear to control the population from getting out of hand or going against their own leadership. What was also interesting about that lifetime is that I also was experiencing some behind the scenes things that were going on with this reptilian type leadership. I was seeing that they had a lot of spiritual technology, such as these portals that were inside the pyramids. And I apparently in this lifetime was sharing all this knowledge that I had about this leadership to the rest of the commoners. And when this was found out that I was spreading all this, then I was killed as well. And in such a significant way as being my throat slit. So I think about that maybe due to that trauma. There's a lack of expression in my current lifetime or other lifetimes. That was something I had to become aware of as I saw that. Then the next lifetime that was significant in this journey was a lifetime in Atlantis. And in this powerful imagery, I saw myself holding this translucent staff right in front of this huge palace that also somewhat looked translucent in itself. And I had this knowing that it was my job to do this. And what I was doing was channeling source light energy through me, through my hand into this staff. And this energy would help fortify the energy field around Atlantis, as well as help with the integrity of the structure of this palace type building. And so that was pretty interesting. I also noticed that I was taken to family in this lifetime by the practitioner, and I noticed that when I was looking at my daughter in that lifetime, I recognized her as my current youngest daughter just through her soul, not because of what she looked like, but there was just a soul knowing that that's who she was. The same kind of energy was there. And I also had that experience when I looked at my husband in that lifetime. He also had the same energy as my current husband does now. And so that was really interesting and exciting to see that my current family has traveled with me during other significant lifetimes. So as I reflected on all these experiences after this QHHT session, I wanted to sort of validate what came through a little bit. So I started cross-referencing some of what came through in these lifetimes with what research is out there when it comes to ancient Egypt and Atlantis. So I used ChatGPT for this, asked them what channelers or researchers say about staffs in Atlantis. And that, for example, ChatGPT did explain that staffs were used for similar purposes that I mentioned in my regression, and they were made of similar materials, of like this quartz crystal type material that's translucent. So I thought that was really interesting because I knew nothing about staffs in Atlantis or that these types of jobs were necessary. And I just had a very basic understanding of what Atlantis was, but that's and that's partly what made this more powerful, is coming in with limited knowledge about those times. And in terms of Egypt, I also asked ChatGPT what channelers and researchers say about reptilian shape-shifting figures during the time of ancient Egypt. And it did confirm that these were beings that were being reported during that time. So after I had an opportunity to go through and validate some of the things that came up, it set me down a lot of rabbit holes of researching the different things, particularly the reptilian presence during ancient Egypt. I started reading a few books that Chat recommended. One was called Children of the Matrix. And it introduces the idea of the reptilians instituting a matrix type grid over Earth that sort of limited our perceptions in order to control humanity. And that this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. Now, before this experience, I think I'd heard this vaguely before, but had not really given much credit to that idea, nor did I research it at all. So this really opened my eyes. It's like I had a second, awakening and epiphany of why my channeled writing is important, why my guides have been wanting me to organize the writings that I'm doing with them, and why they're pushing me towards getting it out to share with people in book form. Because a lot of the content in it is essentially the key to breaking out of this limited perception, breaking out of this imposed matrix, if you will, and getting us into this 5D future. So it's given me a new sense of purpose, a new sense of understanding why the work that I'm doing is important and why humanity needs it. And so it's just been an impactful experience. So that's just a glimpse into my QHHT experience and the insights it's brought me. Again, like I said, it's clarified my mission in helping others kind of break through this limited perception. And I really got a lot out of it. So I'm very thankful that I was guided to do this QHHT session and all the wisdom and insights that came from it. I would love to hear if any of you have had any QHHT or past life regression sessions, how it impacted you. I would love to hear your feedback. And lastly, I just want to thank you for watching and listening to my story. And if this resonated with you, please like, comment, share, or subscribe if you want to stay updated on more videos to come. All right, bye for now.